Lovely to welcome on this great video and podcast today the super LinkedIn guru, otherwise known as AJ Wilcox, but referred to your friend as AJ. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yep.
It is.
I'm easy.
So we're going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn today and how effective it is and how people can get a lot more from it. So, but before we do that, I thought it'd be really good to hear a little bit more about you and what do you do within your own organization?
Sure. Well, long story short, at the last company I was working for, I had all kinds of experience with search engine optimization and Google ads. And so I went in expecting to use those strategies that I'd built. And on the very first day, my CMO says, "Oh, all that sounds great. But just so you know, we have a LinkedIn ads account that we just started 2 weeks ago. See what you can do with it." And of course I said, "Yes, ma'am, absolutely." And walked out of her office and went, "What is a LinkedIn ads? I've never heard of this before." But I didn't want to look stupid to my new boss. And I dove in and started getting to work and playing with the platform. And then about 2 weeks later, my sales team came up to me and just said, "AJ, we don't know what you're doing, but we're fighting over your leads over here. Keep it up." And I looked into the CRM to see, wow, every single one of these leads is originating from LinkedIn ads, even though it's not the only thing I'm running. So fast forward, I just kept investing in the channel until it became like the vast majority of my time was LinkedIn ads. And after 2.5 years of growing it to become LinkedIn's largest spending account, I went, okay, there has to be some other companies that LinkedIn ads would work really well for, not just this one. And so I left to start B2 Linked, and we're an ad agency that LinkedIn ads is all we do. And then I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about the organic algorithm and organic interactions as well. And I've kind of become a student personally on that. I love that stuff. Everything about LinkedIn's amazing.
It has grown phenomenally, hasn't it? And it's seen as very much the sort of professional network. But you mentioned algorithm, and that's a very interesting point because everybody's trying to get to understand how it's working. Sometimes you see somebody put a lot of effort into a post with almost no engagement. So, so tell us more about some of the little tricks of the trade, if you can, and what some of the things that you found out.
Yeah. So LinkedIn obviously doesn't publish their algorithm, and there's a lot done by machine learning and AI. So we know it's not a single algorithm. It's an algorithm that's kind of customized to you. But here's the basics of how it works. You post something up, and then LinkedIn tries pushing it out to people who are your followers and connections. I call it something like 5% of people, but that might not be anywhere near the actual number. But in that little sample that they send out, they're looking for some kind of engagement. And if they see a certain number of people liking or commenting, and it kind of passes the test, like, oh, there is value here, then they go to start pushing it out to the rest of your audience. And then it's all up to those social interactions on how it goes from there, because LinkedIn is by far the easiest network in the world to go viral on. And most people don't understand this, but only about 4% of people will post on LinkedIn, but 100% of us need all content in our feeds when we log in. So LinkedIn has to go, okay, so what do we prioritize showing people? And what they decided, I think this was back in like 2014, 2015, is, hey, anytime someone hits like, comment, or share, something we call a social interaction, then they go, there's something of interest here. Let's broadcast that out to the person who engaged socially. Let's push it out to a portion of their network. And so as long as you keep getting likes and comments, reshares, that post keeps going to your followers and your followers' followers and your followers' followers' followers. So it all comes down to what can you post that people want to react to.
And so that's the $1 million question: is what are the types of content that you're finding resonates really well? I mean, is it, for example, some of the more personal moments and experiences that are creating greater shareability, if you will, or is it video content, for example?
Yeah, I think all of the above and more. What I've found is when I find something that really works, so let's say a talking head video where you're teaching a tip, um, if that works really well for you and you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, your audience goes, oh, I've seen these before. Like there's nothing new here. There's nothing unique. And so they stop paying attention to you. So first off, there has to be variety. When you find out what works, don't become a one-trick pony and just keep reusing. You got to give variety. So like you mentioned, sharing things authentically is great, especially if you've built a network around you who like they like you, that you have real interactions with them and they want to cheer you on. So that sure helps. Um, you know, every once in a while, if you're providing enough value, you can do really well with a post that is blatantly self-promotional, but it can't be every one. And you got to give a lot of value in between.
Yeah.
Shouting people out can do really well. Just kind of shining the spotlight on someone who deserves it. Um, asking for opinions, doing polls, all of those kinds of things tend to get really good reactions.
And what about when you've put in links, outbound links? Because I'm hearing that LinkedIn doesn't like that. Is that
Yeah.
your advice?
Yeah, when I've been hearing rumbles around that this doesn't seem to be an issue anymore, but I can't confirm that. From my experience, when I post a link that takes someone away from LinkedIn, therefore away from where LinkedIn makes money when you go, that post, it's a lot harder to go viral. It's kind of like the legs get chopped off of it and it just doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, so much better to create content that keeps people on LinkedIn and not try to take them away if you can help it.
So if that's the case, what about engagement pods then? What about when a group of people together decide, actually, well, we're going to try and beat this system, and we'll come together and we'll like and share stuff, but we'll do it within the first hour or 2 hours. I've certainly noticed when there's a group of people together, that pushes the content out quite a lot quicker.
It sure does. Yeah, pods absolutely work. The big challenge with pods is that over time, um, LinkedIn might get smarter to the fact that, oh, it's always the same group of people who are promoting. Like
Yes,
maybe let's not make them count as much in the algorithm.
yes,
And I think we'll probably see that happen.
yeah,
Uh, I've been a member of some pods just kind of testing around, and I've found pods that are just like, hey, everyone at 6 p.m., go and share this and go and like and comment. And they release on schedules, and I don't really feel like I have connections to people in the group. And so I end up promoting a bunch of stuff that I don't actually believe in.
mm,
And then I'm a member of a pod who uh, kind of functions as a pod, but it's not like set up to be one, where it's like, hey, we all know each other and like each other. If this post resonates with you, I'd love to get your reaction.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah.
I think as long as it's organic like that, it's a lot less likely of being found out or penalized.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What about stuff? What are a few no-nos for you? In other words, I mean, we've said outbound links maybe, but are there any other types of things that people should avoid at all costs?
Um, I think every so often I'll go post something and I'll go, oh man, nowhere in that post was I encouraging interaction. It was just like, hey, here's this thing, check it out. And uh, so I think the biggest no-no is when you're creating a post, you should be thinking the whole time, and I'm just as guilty of this, so
Mm,
not judging anyone, but think the whole time, okay, the purpose of this post is going to ask someone for their reaction,
yeah,
ask them to comment, ask them to share, give them something that they think is worth liking. And if you can do that, you pretty much win the algorithm. Every post is probably going to go viral.
yeah, yeah. No, that sounds great. What about some of the campaigns that you've been involved with that have worked really, really well? What's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I'll take a step back here and just explain something. With LinkedIn ads, you have to imagine that everyone who sees your ads, they're hearing about your company for the first time.
Mm,
And because of that, we know that to get someone to take a really serious action, like wanting to buy something or wanting to talk to a sales rep, they have to know, like, and trust you by that point. So uh, what we find is LinkedIn ads are quite expensive compared to, say, Facebook. So if you're going to what we call the very top of the funnel, like, hey, just come check out this blog post I wrote, you're paying $8 to $12 a click to get people to read your blog. And it's really rare when the ROI shakes out of that. Versus you go to the opposite end of the spectrum that's like, buy something now or talk to sales. People just won't click because they're not willing. And so the magic that we've found is that area in between where you're providing enough educational value or other kind of value in exchange for them to essentially fill out a lead form. So they give you their first name, last name, email, they get access to this awesome webinar that teaches them something, or this free checklist or cheat sheet that's going to be really valuable. And so the vast majority of the ultra successful campaigns that we've run follow that formula. And it's understanding your audience well enough to know what they really want, what keeps them up at night, what problem you can solve. And one of the best examples of this, and just cut me off if I'm droning on too long, but one of the best examples I saw, doesn't actually make us look very good, but we had a client several years back who they had like 4 different ebooks, and we tried rapid iterative testing, like new images, different ad copy. Like, why can't we get any of these 4 ebooks to work well? They were all bringing in like content downloads at around $125 per. And yeah, that's expensive for getting someone to download an ebook. Like, we thought for sure we were going to get fired. And then suddenly our contact says, hey, we just came out with this new guide. It's called the Ultimate Guide to Onboarding. And we put it out, same strategies, same type of imagery, same type of ad copy. And all of a sudden, click-through rates tripled, costs dropped by about half, and our conversion rates tripled. So we ended up getting leads in the like $23 range, and it was overnight, nothing changed. And what that taught us is, like, there's only so much lipstick you can put on a pig. It's still not going to be pretty. And so if your offer doesn't actually solve a problem, it's not something that people actually want, you're going to struggle really hard. So that was a great one.
No, I mean, that just proves content is king, isn't it? More than ever. And getting it right and understanding your audience. No, I couldn't have put it better myself. Have there been any other sort of campaigns more recently that you've been really proud of and you thought, well, that's worked really well because?
Yeah, the one that stands out, and this kind of is going to go counter to what to some of the principles I've already shared, but it was so surprising to me that it worked that I have to share it. It comes right top of mind. There's a company who was providing, it was kind of like an Uber for helicopters, and they would shortcut people's commute from Orange County, California into LA and back again, because it's this like, a 2-hour drive that these ultra wealthy executives have to make every day if they don't want to live in LA proper. And I said, oh, guys, this isn't going to work. Like, helicopter trips that are $250 each way. These people don't know us yet. There's no way this is going to work. Fast forward to when we launched, we were like bottom of funnel. People had never heard of us before. We're asking for a credit card right up front to book a trip, and people were doing it like crazy. And so, like I said, goes counter to everything that I taught. But when you solve a real problem, people will cut you slack. They'll jump to the bottom of the funnel if you're providing enough value.
Yeah. Now, I've noticed recently that LinkedIn events have been very popular, haven't they? So when you can now invite somebody to an event, which links you straight into that process, and that made a difference. Have you found people, particularly with online events?
Yes. What I love so much about events, so just kind of like a spoiler alert here, events ads are coming, and I'm really excited about that. They're in beta right now. But what's so cool about LinkedIn's events is they can represent an in-person event, like a get together. They can represent an online event like a summit or webinar just as well. They can support paid or free events. So they're very, very versatile. And the big problem I had, like, I don't know if you've ever played with LinkedIn Live before, but with LinkedIn Live, it's kind of like all right, I know everyone on this network I'm connected to is really busy. And if they see a little notification that says AJ's live right now, they're not going to have time to tune in and see like what's AJ talking about. And so what you can do with an event now is you can schedule it. You can say Thursday at 4 p.m. I'm going live. It's going to be about this topic. And you can attach a live to that event. So
Mm.
now you're scheduling it. And I think we're going to see a lot more success from LinkedIn Live because we can make it episodic. We can schedule it.
Yeah.
And
Do you
yeah,
think actually, because um, the lives have been, I think, some successful to some, of course, but you're right. A lot of people, a lot of busy professionals have quite packed calendars, don't they? So being able to, but also I would say that even when stuff is scheduled, people sign up to stuff but then don't show up. So the amount of conversions to these things do drop off, unless I always think if things goes into my Outlook calendar and it's there, I've the higher chance of attending because it's already there. Do you know what I mean? Is that your experience as well with some of these things?
absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of if you schedule someone for a webinar, make sure that your process sends them a calendar invite so it goes onto their calendar. Because if
Yeah,
they're just every time they look at next Thursday, they see this thing taking up space, they're much more likely to get excited about it.
yeah,
Um,
no, no, absolutely, absolutely.
the other thing is you can, from an ads perspective, you can add people to a retargeting audience who have said they're interested in an event. So I don't necessarily care because I'm in this for the long run. I don't necessarily care whether you showed interest and then didn't show up. I now have you on a list. So when I start running ads, I'm going to get you for the next one and I'm going to stay top of mind for the next one. You showed enough interest in what I was doing that I think my next ones are going to be, interesting to you as well. And so don't think like, oh man, my first live, I only had 3 people on it. Yeah, maybe, but your next one's going to have 13 and your next one's going to have 25 and it's going to build from there. Don't be discouraged by your first run.
Yeah, yeah. What's your view about people that sort of request a connection and then immediately they're into a sales pre-ordained script? It really is a put off for me. I don't know about you. What's your
Yeah, I feel very strongly about this. From the very beginning of my own profile on LinkedIn back in 2007, I was really careful about who I connected to. At first, I said I only want to connect to people that I know personally, and I've like widened that circle quite a bit, in recent years. But I think that LinkedIn is it's easy to think of it being very distanced from you, very distanced from personality. And so people think that it's okay to do something like pitching people on the first time you've ever talked to them. But if you imagine LinkedIn for what it really is, which is like the world's largest professional networking event, if I came running towards you from the opposite side of the room with my business card in hand, going,
absolutely?
Gordon, take this, buy from me, you'd be
Yeah,
like, I need to get like out of this room. And
quite.
that's what it feels like on LinkedIn when people do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, if I connect with people, I normally I always send a personal message, and I mention mutual connections and friends and offering them something of value. Even if it's a free listen to the board, the podcast or whatever. So
Oh yeah.
that's cool. So what about measurement now? What about some of the ways in which organizations can measure the success of LinkedIn?
Well, if you're advertising, this is so easy because advertising tools from the very beginning have just given us all these metrics. So whenever your ad shows on someone's screen, they call that an impression, and you can find out how many impressions. And then you show that ad enough and a certain percentage of people will say that's interesting to me and they'll click, and so then the platform will show you how many clicks that ad drove and how much that cost and what the rate of how many people did you have to show this to in order to get a click. uh, that's then visible, and then the next step is, okay, someone's clicked on your ad, but did they do what I wanted them to do, which was fill out a form or follow us or whatever we're asking them to do. Then there's metrics for that they call conversions, and you can find out your conversion rate. How many people do we have to get to this page in order to get one person to to do what we're asking them to do. And what's our cost? Is it, $27 per person filling out a form, or is it 150, or is it 900? So those are the metrics that we watch, and it's essentially like you follow whichever metric you can that's closer to the money that has enough data. So if you just started advertising yesterday, no, you're not looking for your cost per conversion. You're looking more for your click-through rate to see how interesting your ads are. But
and how long,
down the road.
how long for a typical campaign, for example? Are we talking a month, a few weeks, 3 months?
I'm a big fan of monthly, because that happens to be around the cycle that people start to tire of your ads and your offers. So if people only log into LinkedIn on average like 3 or 4 times a month. So if they've seen your ad now 3 or 4 times, chances are they're like, oh, okay, I've already seen that. I don't feel encouraged to click. Like, it's not new to me anymore. So I'm a big fan of, like, even if it's the same offer, run it for a month and then change things up, new image, new ad copy, pull something different out as value, and roll that into month 2. But if you're spending, which I recommend, around $5,000 a month, by the end of the month, you'll get usually enough conversion data that you'll have like 95% statistical significance around your conversions tests. And that's a really good place to say, ooh, this is working, we should keep going, or this sucks, we should fire AJ or just stop spending.
Super. Like, really great to hear some of your thoughts and advice around LinkedIn. So if you want to hear a little bit more about LinkedIn, then listen to AJ's interview, which we've got in my new book, which is Influencer Marketing Strategy, out in March. So great. Thank you to hearing you today, AJ.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the invite, Gordon. It's been just a blast getting to chat with you.
Thank you.